The cells for their new art piece have arrived from the United States.
Thank you very much.
The cells are shipped in dry ice in a state of frozen animation.
Yep.
They are immortalized mouse fibroblast cells. An immortalized cell line is one in which the cells will reproduce infinitely.
In other words, they're cancer cells.
However, they have been treated in a way that they divide infinitely. So unlike regular cells in the body that maybe divide 52 times, these cells will divide forever. And that is our current definition of what cancer is.
Sean coerces them back to life with a warm bath, while Jennifer records every detail. It's all considered part of the art.
Too much coffee this morning.
They plan to feed and grow the tumor cells into a kind of living sculpture.
We take the cells, we begin to grow them inside of essentially petri dishes. So one petri dish becomes 2 petri dishes, it's divided again, it becomes 4 petri dishes, and so on. We can exponentially grow them. We can then put them into what's called a bioreactor, which is in essence an artificial uterus. That's seated with a polymer scaffold. The cells will attach to the polymer scaffold. They will begin to displace it and grow over it. What you're left with is a 3-dimensional living sculpture specimen.
The result is a monstrous-looking creation of what a cancer can look like. You're crossing into a domain that needs to be examined ethically. The morality of entering into a domain that you don't have the training for, that is potentially dangerous. You're dealing with life.
This is not potentially dangerous. It's very important that you understand that the protocols that we're engaging in are the lowest level of tissue culture protocols.
But you intend to work with human cells.
Absolutely.
We have worked with human cells.
We intend on working with our own cells. In fact, we think that's more ethical because we are able to consent to donate our cells to the project versus the animal cells that we're using. There was no consent obtained.
My problem with this kind of work has to do with the links it has to the actual practices, methodologies, and goals of what it's trying to critique, and that is biotechnology.
Carol Gigliotti is a writer, educator, and artist at the Emily Carr Institute in Vancouver. She writes about ethics and the impact technology has on animals and the environment. She's as concerned about biotechnology as she is in the ethics of bioart.
Specifically, in the Bioteknica work that we took a look at, it's not so much that they're dealing with the kinds of practices that are about test tubes. For instance, the tissue that they had brought in was from a particular kind of mouse that is bred to develop a particular kind of cancer. In my mind, that's reprehensible. By using that kind of a mouse, you're actually using all the animals that have been bred in that way. But you're also using all the millions of mice that have been used and are used in experimentation.
I think that the kind of work that Jennifer and Sean are doing really forces us to think about, ask questions about this work that maybe normally we wouldn't ask.
Christine Jameson is an ethicist and chair of the Department of Theology at Concordia. She's also worried about where biotechnology is going.
The direction that biotechnology is moving in is kind of scary. I mean, it's interesting to think about the story that Mary Shelley wrote so long ago on Frankenstein. I mean, that's always the scare. What are we creating? What are we doing? You know, we don't even know what we're doing.
You want to spin it again a little bit longer? Oh, that's a pellet.
There we go.
Bailey and Willet are also worried about the direction biotechnology is taking.
We really see this as a key moment in our history of humanity and as part of the larger ecology of this planet, that we are moving into a phase where we are able to make decisions that will affect us for thousands of generations to come in ways that we can't imagine.
We're on the cusp of an absolute revolution in our ability to manipulate living systems, to create things that could be designer toys, create bodies that can live for much longer, perform much better than the bodies that we currently have.
Also do is announce to all
Coming up, first night, the public gets to see what they've been doing.
Tonight we're going to do a live protocol in the gallery.
It's the day before the opening. Bailey and Willet had to comply with strict regulations to present their work at the Fine Arts Gallery at Concordia University.
These aren't actually dangerous, but our concern is that we don't want to contaminate any of them, and the less they're handled, the less they're exposed to that. In here, this is some of the frozen nutrients that we're working with. Fetal bovine serum, this is trypsin, this is used to deaggregate the cells. DMEM, this is tobacco's modified eagle medium, and then it's divided into these ampules, which have some of the penicillin, streptomycin, and fetal bovine serum mixed into it as well. So this is enough to feed for a period of time.
If you have a second containment, you can put it like a tray.
Yep.
That would be better in case that they leak.
Okay.
Nabil Basada is the health and safety inspector. It's his job to protect the public. Although this experiment is not dangerous, there are still risks.
If they don't follow the protocol, anything can happen. It can have contamination, someone can get injured, broken glass can happen, and they can contaminate themselves. And by taking some precautions from the beginning, we can prevent all this from happening. Of course, accidents can happen also, but at least we'll know what we're dealing with in this case. Are you getting any other equipment?
There will be a microscope coming in, which will be placed here, and there's going to be a large incubation chamber.
It's been 7 years building the skills to know how to do this. All the scientific equipment comes with a cost. Their funding is from a variety of government grants, and it's substantial.
They do tend to be in the six-figure amount, so it's an unprecedented level of funding for artists to work with, and it has greatly facilitated this project and eased our access into domains that traditionally artists have difficult time, non-specialists have difficult time engaging in. Kind of roll the whole thing back, and you are ready to go.
For the first time in a Canadian art gallery, the public will witness a biological procedure. No one is sure just what to expect.
Tonight we're going to do a live protocol in the gallery. Oh, I'm going to put that bag over the... We're going to do a primary cell culture, which means we are going to take a beef bone that we purchased today that has recently been slaughtered, and we're going to take the cells out of the marrow, and we're going to seed them in the tissue culture flasks. Or you can get real... Smells bad. Now I want you to remind me, make sure I'm doing everything good, all right? Yeah. Well, actually, Sean, may I have a scalpel, please? Here, don't open it outside of the hood. No. Beautiful, thank you. I'm going to take out a substantial portion of the bone marrow.
Tissue culture has been going on for over 100 years now, and there is no possibility of us accidentally creating a sentient organism through cultivating a small amount of cells in a petri dish.
But biotechnology has that potential.
Yes, and we want you to think about that, and we want you to come to your own conclusions about how you feel about that and what action you should take as an individual in the face of that information.
Mainly there's a lot of Kool-Aid in there with some vitamins. And then, in addition to that, there's fetal bovine serum.
What do you think of it?
What we think of that?
What do you think of that?
It's fabulous.
Really?
Absolutely.
Why?
It's so aesthetic, and it's now, and it's just exciting. I love the way they presented it in there.
Has the monstrous any place in art? And that's a serious question, because if you have the monstrous, then there is something to react to immediately.
I think that the emotional response might be one of repulsion.
So I want to show you, these are the cells. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them inside of the incubator and try and heat them up. And then tomorrow I'm going to come back and I'm going to look and see whether or not they're adhering to the bottom and they're growing and if they're alive. And there's not really much we can tell today until then. Okay?
The biotech future is now, and we need to decide now as individuals and as a society what direction we want it to go. But those decisions are already being made on our behalf by corporations. And so we are okay with the urgency and some of the upset that this project creates because it motivates people to activate themselves with this knowledge.
I think it's work that's made with the intention of questioning the boundaries of the definition of art. So
does it work?
As art?
Yeah.
I can't say. I think a few years from now we'll look back and we'll know.
There's no question biotechnology has been making big leaps, and it's causing big headaches for ethicists. But should artists be working with the very tools they criticize? How do you feel about the idea of using living cells and genes to create art? We'd like to know your opinion. Call us at 1-888-321-2567 or email us at 360vision@visiontv.ca. Please don't forget to include your name as we don't air anonymous messages. Stay with us. After the break, we'll hear what you had to say about last week's show about pornography on cell phones.
A cellular phone is totally portable and can be taken out into public places. So what's the difference between someone exposing themselves in public and a cellular phone that is suddenly showing images of people in sex acts?
I am sick and tired of people that have appointed themselves the moral police to condemn me for my safe sex fantasies. Instead of holding me in contempt for my actions, why don't they do something useful like hooking me up with a girl next door type? Otherwise, mind their own business.
When did it become the job of multinational companies to parent our children for us? Isn't that the role you take as a parent when you become a parent? It's always someone else's fault that their child accesses something they find morally reprehensible.
I was appalled by the news that big companies are degrading themselves to choose to make more money by disregarding some moral issues and conduct.
Over 70% of gold in the world comes from places like this, poor, developing countries. Canadian mining companies are making a killing in Honduras. People here say all they do is leave behind toxic waste, sickness, death. That's why when they look at this, it looks awfully dirty.